Ted, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is fun.
It is, and I'll have to say that the book that we're going to be focused on, Loving and Young, I have to think there's a lot of parents of teenagers or high schoolers that are opposed to this book. So, tell me, what was the basis of, kind of launching into this topic, which in some regards is controversial, and yet I think there's a lot of, as I read it, I was enlightened to the fact that this is a really important conversation to have.
Sure, and this isn't a book encouraging young people to rush marriage.
Okay.
A lot of times when people read it or see just the title, this is what we tend to do with books. We see the title, we form a major opinion off of the title, and I'm not encouraging teenage marriage. I'm not encouraging, meeting someone and being married 2 weeks later. The subtitle is exactly what my heart is behind it. It's just challenging, speaking to those unnecessary delays of marriage that we see in our culture today.
So who would you say this book is written for, and who is it not written for?
The first primary target is that early 20s, mid 20s, young man, young woman who desires to be married, and everyone around them, parents, church leaders, boss, friends, coworkers, are telling them you're too young. That's the primary audience.
Mm-hmm.
The secondary audience is its parents, to teach them traditional relationship formation milestones, to let them know, hey, age has nothing to do with it. It's all about maturity. So let's talk about maturity and quit looking at a 24-year-old who announces, hey, I want to get married. And with that tone, I have a whole chapter in the book called The Tone, because we have that, oh, are you sure? I don't want to, you could ruin the rest of your life. You could be, screwing up this success, that we have planned for you and that we paid for with your college. There's so many roadblocks to marriage today. The goal of the book was to help parents say, okay, I have a teenager. I need to talk to them about how to form relationships well.
Which I think is super important. I think it'd be interesting to know which one ends up reading your book more, the parent or the one that's young and thinking about getting married. But, there is a statistic that's out there and, around the idea that marriages are more likely to end in divorce if the couple marries before the age of 25. Why do you think this is the case?
Well, so that's a UCLA study that was done. And with any research, you have to be careful. We got to take the whole body of research, not just this, one study, because I can also point to the studies that talk about sex before marriage also increases your divorce rate. But we leave that out.
Right.
So we have to include all research when we discuss this topic. And so my encouragement, again, is not the issue of age. If you think about it, I have fun with this in the book. I just took my kids to Disney and at age 10 and 12, and Disney considers both of my children adults, right? I paid full adult price for them. Restaurants, it's around age 12, you start picking off the adult menu.
Yeah.
16, you get a driver's license. 18, you vote. 21, you drink. 25, you can rent a car. I mean, we have all these weird ages
milestones
that don't fit. So when a parent asks me, this is the number one question I get asked at a parenting conference. After technology, I should probably say it's the number two question I get asked. When are you going to allow your daughter to date? At what age? And what's the magic number that we put on this?
Yeah.
16, right? Yeah,
right.
It's got to be 16.
Yep.
Well, I'm telling my daughter, you may or may not be ready at that magical age. That I don't know who put that age on there, but it's not an issue of birthdays. It's an issue of maturity and milestones. That's the whole emphasis of this book, is to talk through those milestones rather than telling our children, hey, at 18, we think you're wise enough to make these decisions. At 21, we think you're ready for the responsibility of consuming adult beverage. I mean,
right.
No, let's have the conversation rooted in maturity.
Yeah. So would you say that the reason, coming back to that statistic of failed marriages, is it largely due to the maturity aspect of it? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. I would say, I believe, and I see this in the counseling office all the time, and I'm sure you do as well in your work with couples.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about it. I believe prolonged adolescence, that I define as too much privilege, not enough responsibility, is a leading cause of divorce in our country today.
Hmm.
It's that 30-year-old, that 35-year-old, and in some cases 40 and 45-year-old. No one's ever invited them to adulthood. And honestly, sometimes it's you and I are the first that get to help them say, yeah, your wife says she's leaving, or your husband says he's leaving, and here's why. And you start to see these symptoms, and you're going, these are all symptoms of immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
They're not symptoms of your age or your parenting. I mean, we've got to encourage you to set privilege aside, pursue responsibility, and understand that privilege is a result of responsibility.
That's good. That's good. So what would you say is needed for a young person to be ready for marriage?
Well, for the parents to start sooner rather than later. When I teach relationship formation to my kids, when I teach it to our congregation, my goal is, okay, it starts as early as 0 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
We're teaching our kids, God gave you your body. There's nothing dirty about it. He made you this way. 6 to 9, we're teaching them what's modest, immodest, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. 10 to 13, we start teaching them about their desires, what we taught them about their body. God gave you these desires.
Mm-hmm.
He made you this way. You're not weird for going through puberty. This is all part of the plan. And part of that is individualization and separation. That 10 to 13-year-old is separating from mom and dad, and they're becoming little adults. And this is when parents freak out. This is when parents say, no, we don't want this. We want to hold you in. And one of the illustrations I use is horseback riding, because we as parents today, we accelerate childhood milestones, but then delay adulthood milestones.
Mm-hmm.
So 0 to 10 years old, we tell our kids, go, 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 go. Then when they start to individualize and separate from us, doing exactly what we've trained them to do,
Right.
we begin delaying adulthood milestones. We begin to say, whoa. And the reason I use horseback riding, it's that you spur a horse on to go, but then you pull back on the reins to say, whoa, the reason parenting tweens and teens today is so exhausting for the parent and the teen is because we've been telling them their whole lives, go, 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 go. At the same time, we're pulling back on the reins. And that's going to exhaust a horse on a 2-hour horseback ride. It's going to exhaust your kid for years saying, you started me with my baby can read videos, right? You wanted me to get going there. I had to be potty trained by 12 months old so you could compete with your friends on Facebook. You put me in my professional sports path around age 5 or 6. Reading in school is no longer acceptable. It's accelerated reading. Everything's fast. So I'm doing exactly what you told me to do. But now, 10 to 13, I develop feelings towards, your daughter comes home and she says, I like Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
What does mom say? No, you don't. I won't allow you to like Kyle.
Right.
That's not possible. And I love to use this illustration. It's the mom explaining to her daughter why she's not in love. And the mom says, you don't know what love is, right? Love is what your father and I have. That is so the case with the way we've got to picture a special future for our 13-year-old daughter who says, I think I'm in love.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting married tomorrow. But what's wrong with talking about what kind of house do you want to live in? What kind of wedding do you want to have? Tell me what characteristics, what character traits are you looking for in the young man you want to. Let's talk that through, because I believe 14 and on, that's all we're doing. Carey Nieuwhof, I don't know if you know, Carey's a pastor in Canada. Love his teaching. He says, with every year of your child's life, you're losing control. But hopefully you're gaining influence.
Wow. That's
14, 15,
brilliant.
16, 17-year-olds, we don't have control, but hopefully we have influence.
Yeah.
And that to me, with relationship formation, that's what it is. We need to be picturing a special future for our kids rather than just saying, no, stop, wait, quit, don't. We've got to move beyond that to having some strong conversations with them.
Yeah, and I wonder, you use the term rushed marriage versus young marriage. What is the difference between the two?
Well, I would say a rushed marriage is we met, we hooked up, we have chemistry, whatever terms we're using today in our culture, and we're just gonna get started and make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not for long engagements. If you're mature and you're ready, then I don't believe you need to wait 2-3 years. I hear some people, I call this the spreadsheet delay, and they're waiting until they have the job and the money in the bank and the first place and everything figured out before they get married. That's an unnecessary delay. You don't want to rush marriage at the same time to say, hey, we just met, let's be married within a few weeks. That to me is the rush. The idea that I use, I say there's really 5 scenarios that I share with couples now at marriage conferences. The first is, we were mature when we married. That's very few people.
Yeah.
I always joke and say, that's the farmers that are here. They were forced to work at an early age and they learned maturity. The second is where I think a lot of us can relate to. It's, we were immature when we married, but we grew up together. So I think that's a lot of couples today.
Yeah.
Scenario 3 and 4 is a little bit tougher one. Scenario 3 I call, we were immature when we married. I grew up. He or she did not. That's a tough one. Fourth, though, I think is powerful, because if you can admit this, then I think you're well on your way to responsibility. It's, we were immature when we married. My spouse grew up. I did not. So the ability to say, I've got some maturing to do. And then the fifth scenario would be, we were immature when we married and we still are. And that's why we end up working with the couples that we work with. We want to help them. Okay, here's how we'll move from privilege to responsibility. Here's how we can begin to take responsibility, not just for ourselves, but for another person, and realize our life is not just about us.
Right. So when you talk about unnecessary delays, I think that's a huge one. Whether it's from the vantage point of the young adult or the parent, what would you say are maybe some of the ways that parents can instruct their kids to move into that place of responsibility, but not delaying unnecessarily for the purpose of, you got to hit these milestones of school and then a job and then a home. And I mean, because I think that's a real issue that a lot of times drives this process, in terms of why folks don't get married until they're 29, 30, 31. What are some of the ways that parents can help instruct that?
Yeah. So the 5 milestones of adulthood that have been the same in every generation: leave home, finish school, get a job, get married, start a family. Those were my grandparents and great-grandparents' 5 adulthood milestones. They're my 5 milestones. The children I'm raising, it's their 5 milestones. The difference is, my grandparents completed those milestones in a very short period of time, if not in the same week. Right? It was fast.
Right.
And they did multiple milestones at the same time. So what we're teaching our kids today from a very early age is, you can't do more than one thing at a time. You can only do one thing at a time. This is baseball season. So when baseball season hits, everything else goes on hold. Yeah, you may have to do school, but focus on baseball. So we're going to have to cut church out, friend time. All this other stuff has to go by the way. We're not going to do dinner around the table. We won't have time for that. And we're training our kids do one thing at a time. So today, those milestones are placed on the track of prolonged adolescence. And we're telling our kids, do one at a time, rather than what you and I are doing. We're right now in the midst of all of it. We still have to educate ourselves and become proficient in what our course of study is. We have jobs, we have marriages, we have family. We don't do one at a time anymore.
Right.
And Relevant Magazine just had an article that came out from a young lady that said, don't turn a good pursuit, speaking of dating, into your only pursuit. And I haven't written a rebuttal to that yet, but I was listening to it, I was reading it, and I was going, the problem is, this is how we've really conditioned this generation.
Yeah.
The reason it becomes your only pursuit, it's because you can only do one thing at a time. So when dating, when you find someone, it's like, oh, I throw everything into this dating relationship and my work suffers, or, serving at my church suffers. And you're like, no, I actually have to do both. This is part of adulthood, learning how to balance, learning how to manage. And so, but if you think about with parents, got to get the college degree. Do not get married, as Amy and I did. I graduated, but she had 1 year left of college. But we married between her junior and senior year. And you hear parents, or you see parents react to that when I say that. They're like, you should have waited another year. Yeah, but we didn't need to. That was the point. We could do both. You can be married and take a college course. It's more than possible.
Yeah, right. So one of the questions I have, I think for many of the listeners, what are the unintended consequences of these these delayed pauses or having to achieve the milestones? Because I think, some parents would probably argue, well, if they're in love, they're going to be in love when they're complete all these different milestones. Let's just let this run its course. What would you say are some of the unintended consequences of someone getting married late in life instead of saying, hey, we're going to be young and in love and we're going to move forward with this?
Yeah. So I call that the independence delay. We're teaching our young people to be independent. We even tell them you need to know how to be independent before you'll be successful in marriage. And the goal of marriage is two becoming one. So independence isn't working for you in marriage. Independence works against you in marriage. But I actually believe independence has become a socially acceptable term for selfishness. We don't intend to say this. We're not meaning to say this. But what we're doing is saying, go live for yourself and by yourself and take care of yourself after college for another 5 to 10 years. And once you learn how to do that well, you may meet someone else who's learned how to do that well. And that'll be an easy way to form oneness.
You got a train wreck.
Yeah. And what's interesting is when you talk this through one-on-one with parents, they have these moments and just this back and forth like you and I are having. We're like, oh, wow. Yeah. And it's, so you've raised a child in a kid-centered home for 18, 20 years, told him everything revolves around you. Now I'm going to send you out and I want you to continue to revolve your work and your life around you. Part of the responsibility of hitting these milestones is it's not just about me. I'm going to take on the responsibility for myself, yes, caring for myself, yes, but also I have a wife to care for. I have children to care for. And I have to do all of that while working and serving others. Right. And it's part of adulthood and part of life.
So Ted, tell me, for the young adult that's listening today, what are some of the things that you would say are important that they've taken on and have arrived at in their own life personally to be ready to get married?
So at our church, we have this saying, every marriage is a duet in need of great backup singers. And what that means is you have to really understand who the backup singers are in your life. If your desire is to get married, you're dating, and maybe you've been dating for a while and you're like, I need to get married. But the backup singers in your life are saying, no, don't rush it. I would really think through who the backup singers or the voices are in your life that you need to turn down, maybe even mute altogether, and find some voices that will encourage you. Because it's sad to me when a 23 or 24-year-old sends me a text message or an email, a friend in the church, and says, hey, I just want you to know, and I say this in the book, Jocelyn and I are getting married. Well, I respond back with, congratulations, I'm so excited for you. And I go, and then a year later at their wedding, I hear, hey, Ted, thanks for that. I don't know if you know this, but you were really the only one who was excited for us. That's just sad to me that we don't have grandma and grandpa and moms and dads and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters that get excited for us when else. And I think it's because of divorce rate. Honestly, people are like, oh no, that we're starting automatically with, should I get to know her? Should I really get to know him? How long will they be a part of our family? And not to mention blended family. Oh no, now I'm getting new grandchildren. How attached should I be? Will this marriage work? Won't it work? We need to find good backup singers. This is why I say press into biblical community. You need to find a local church that believes in and supports marriage, will cheer you on for your marriage, not just be there waiting for you to end it. So find good backup singers. That's what I would tell a young person. 2, pursue responsibility. When a young man comes up to me and says, how in the world did you get married at 22? Amy's 21. And because I tell the story, I went and asked Mr. Freitag, my wife's dad, I'd like to marry your daughter. He's 6'2", full-blooded Norwegian. And he responds in his thick Norwegian accent, you betcha. And I said, but only under one condition. He said, what's that? I said, I would like permission to pay for her senior year of college. To which he responded, you can probably fill it in for me.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
You betcha. Yeah, he was excited. And young guys will ask me, how did you do that? How did you get married? And this is where work comes in. As a young 20-something, really work is all you need to be thinking about. You need to be driven. You need to pursue, in your case, if the military is going to be your career, take that seriously. Realize I want to get good marks. I want to step up. I want to go up in the ranks. I want to be pursuing responsibility, not just for me to have another medal or bat. No, it's to take care of someone, to take care of a wife, to take care of a family. And they go, you can't, I don't know how you do it. And I always say, I love when they tell me they can't afford to be married while they're holding a venti caramel macchiato in their right hand and an iPhone 6 Plus in their left. And I tell them, you need to be thinking flip phone and Folgers, not iPhones and Starbucks. So pursue responsibility. No matter how you were parented, pursue it. But then also, I know some people read that book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and took it literally. Right. If your desire is to be married, you actually probably should consider dating, right?
Yeah, right.
You should consider asking someone out on a date. And let me tell you, our church has grown with this message because young ladies are here going, okay, I want to find a guy who's actually having marriage teaching poured into him. And I want to find a guy who's hearing a voice in his life regularly tell him, step up, grow up, take responsibility. It's time to mature. It's one of my favorite lines to use with a young guy. You got this. You can do this.
Yeah.
I was just with a friend who is getting married this summer. He's 23. And he just found out what his fiance's school debt is a big issue to tackle as well. School debt is keeping people from getting married. And the school debt amount per month for the next 10 years is the same as a rent or a mortgage payment. It's huge.
Wow.
And I could just see it in his eyes. He's just looking at me like, oh, no. I looked at him and I just said, you got this. You can do this. You may have to get another little part-time job. You may have to start a little business where you can do coding or something at home from, 10 to midnight, but you got this. Yeah. You can do it.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the case in Branson, Missouri, but I think we're finding in a lot of different places where the women are saying, hey, I'd like to get married, but the guys are not pursuing this. And I think they've literally taken the book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, literally, and saying, hey, I'm just not into it. Let's just do the friend thing. Let's just hang out with a group of people. Is it that the guys are uninitiated in terms of their role in this this journey? And what would you say to those guys? I mean, I think you're kind of saying step up, but
yeah, I would say two things. One, young men today are finding their adventure in video games and their romance in porn. And that's a deep heart issue that needs to be dealt with. That is at a conviction level, needs to be addressed. I would say two, to the young lady who's saying I'd like to go on a date, when you're asked out on a date, don't put all of the expectations of the rest of your life on that first date. I hear from guys, it's like there's just too much. There's just way
first
too
date,
much
we're getting married.
Yeah, and that's why that company, It's Just Lunch. I don't know if you've seen that. It's Just Lunch. It's kind of a dating site where they just set you up for lunch. Brilliant marketing, because they're wanting to say, I think it should be the same in Christian circles and churches today. It's just a date.
Yeah.
Right. There's no hookup expectation. There's no marriage expectation. But yet today, really, and I'm sad for this, dating and sex has almost become synonymous. There's this expectation. Set the expectation up front. We're just going to go learn, our life negotiation skills and relationship skills, but I don't need the rest of my life hinging on this one date. But yet dates do build and lead to something more, i.e. marriage.
Right. You talk about in your book that marriage can help you deal with the insecurities, but isn't there a potential for codependency to creep into the relationship when we're trying to look to our partner to help deal with that insecurity, especially if both people are insecure? Well, how would you address that?
Yeah, and that's why I love using the term immature more than insecure, because immature means, to me, it pictures a special future for maturity. I can still grow. I can still learn. And so, yes, while a spouse will be that mirror and point out those flaws, the actual changes that are needed in your life and heart are 100% your responsibility, not the other person. So I love doing and we remind in our home all the time with a 10-year-old and 12-year-old. Amy and I, we say it all the time. Jesus is my source of life, not you. Okay. I'm not looking to you to be my source. Codependency is when we plug into people, places, or things as the source of life. And the textbook definition would be excessive emotional reliance. So we use the term clingy. When you find yourself being clingy and expecting the other person to change, it's at that moment that I recommend you fire your spouse. You fire your girlfriend, your fiance, your boyfriend as the source of life and plug into the only true source of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. So how do you, one of my final questions here is, how do you know when you're ready to be married, get married?
Yeah. So this is powerful. Scott Stanley from the University of Denver says very clearly, decisions have power. And that's the thing. And that's a great way to end this whole thing is on relationship formation. We have to understand they're decisions. Okay. And so he uses the term sliding versus deciding. And sliding is you make no decisions. You just find yourself on a date. You use Noel used the illustration a few minutes ago of just hanging out. Right. So that's sliding. We're hanging out. We hooked up. It seems silly that I get up afterwards and go home. Can I just stay the night? It seems silly to get up after staying the night and going home and getting ready for work. Can I just get part of your closet or a drawer? And pretty soon you signed a lease together. You have a puppy together. And you're like, how did this happen? That's sliding. You didn't make any decisions to get to where you are. So part of relationship formation and knowing, am I ready to make decisions? Because decisions have power. Am I ready to take care of this person? Am I ready to provide for this person? Because if so, I'm going to ask her to marry me. I'm going to involve other people in the decision making. Her dad, I'm going to ask for a blessing. We're going to set a date. We're going to make decisions all along the way rather than sliding into. Sliding has no power. Decisions have power.
Got it. Which it's so interesting because I think we have some friends they've been dating for 12 years, and yes, I know.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing.
It's so sad to see this because she is so desperate to be married. She so wants him to be married.
On?
What's that?
What's he waiting on?
Well, see, that's just it. I think part of this has been a decision. I mean, a sliding versus deciding in their relationship where, inadvertently, they've got the puppy, they've moved in. And
the puppy's going to be dead soon.
Yeah, I know.
They're going to have to get another dog.
I think she sees that the handwriting's on the wall with that one. So, she's pressing him now to say, hey, I want to be married. And yet I think in a way he's saying, I got everything I need in a nutshell of marriage, but I don't need to have the commitment part. And I think that's the piece that you're essentially negotiating when you're doing the sliding is that you're inadvertently saying, hey, I want the commitment, but I'm not going to necessarily press him for the commitment.
Okay, so what that's called, and Scott Stanley refers to that as a constraint. Okay, you don't want your relationship to be about constraints. The puppy is a constraint. It keeps you into the relationship without a decision. The lease or the mortgage is a constraint. Okay, I'm not in a relationship with Amy because of a mortgage or because of a dog.
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship with my wife because of a decision.
Right.
Where I said, I want you. I want to spend my life with you. I want to be with you until one of us lays the other in the arms of Jesus or the Lord returns. So that's the difference. And that's what I would instruct someone married. I've met plenty of people dating 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. Most of it has been since our economy took a crash. It's been things are just too dicey.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to roll the dice with this relationship. Well, you know what? We are, because decisions take risk.
Right.
There's always going to be risk in life.
Right.
But I want my wife to know I'm in this no matter what happens in life. What happens to the economy, my job, my health, whatever happens, I'm in this because I love you. I want you, not the mortgage, the puppy, all the other constraints that hold us to a relationship.
Yeah. And I think the saddest part about this couple that I referred to is that now, she's looking at it from a fear-based, like if I break up, I'm not going to be want-worthy from someone else. And so this is the best it's going to get. So I'll just deal with the living together. And it's just, I think that's the tragedy of this whole thing of delaying unnecessarily and essentially putting all the cards in the, I'm willing to settle for less than the commitment of marriage in, living together, all those things. I mean, many people have different views on that. So I'm not necessarily wanting to get political, but at the same time, you talk about the stories on the back end of this, and it's sad. It's sad to see where the pain and suffering is probably unnecessary if they had just done it right from the start.
Yeah, and I never want to break a couple up for counseling. I always love a couple to be together. But with a couple that's living together, I usually do break them up to ask the question, if you didn't have all these constraints, would you be with her?
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have all these constraints, would you be with him?
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of the time it is no.
Yeah.
Don't really know how we got it. Like your friend, if your friend's saying, I don't know, I forgot the term already that you used, but like, I'm not worthy of another relationship. I'm not worthy. And think about what you're saying right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worthy of a commitment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not worthy of someone choosing me, to which I would say, yes, you are.
Yeah.
You most certainly are.
Absolutely. Well, Ted, thank you so much. The book we've been talking about is Young and in Love, and you can find more at woodhills.org. Many of his books that he's written. And then also check out our site, Oxygen 365, for more podcasts on forgiveness, communication. Ted, thank you so much for being with us today. And
hey, this has been fun.
All the best.